Okay. So Tess, I have an agenda in front of me that calls for a roll call, then a review of the, I guess, the prior agenda, review of the agenda, I should say, and then approval of the prior meetings. And then we'll hear your report, Tess, and then we'll have a budget update from Melanie, and then have a closing discussion, and then we can adjourn. Is there anything else that I'm missing, Tess, staff?
I think we're ready to go. And then Ashley will provide a statement of necessity since it is a virtual meeting.
Okay, that'd be fine. You said we have a quorum, so just for edification purposes, the members of this particular committee, Eddie's on, and Commissioner Woodson. Good afternoon, Madam. How are you?
Excellent. It's great to see you.
Good seeing you, and thank you too for handling the um, business meeting to the last, again, commission meeting, since I unfortunately was out of town. So I appreciate the work that you both did in terms of, again, I mean, you did a better job than I could have done, you and Eddie. So I just want to say thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
So we do have a quorum. Okay. And so again, I've reviewed the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the meetings from the July 25th meeting?
Motion to approve.
It's been properly moved. Is there a second? I second it. Discussion? There being none, the motion is approved. Tess, let's hear from you, please, in terms of your operational update.
Sure. And Chair Carter, if you don't mind, since it's a virtual meeting, we're going to have to do a roll call attendance for,
Okay.
and also a roll call on any votes. So I'm going to have Hayden do a roll call first. I will say Eddie said that he can see us, he can't hear us. Eddie, so we're going to get thumbs up for Eddie today.
Okay.
And then Ashley, if you don't mind doing the statement of necessity, and then I will go ahead and get started.
Then it'll be fine.
Eddie, it's really that we actually asked them to mute you. So I'm totally teasing.
Commissioner, I don't know what to say. Commissioner Smith, sign language might be appropriate right now. So, please look at 2 thumbs up or whatever we might need to do so we can make sure we're communicating.
I think he's making a sign.
I object. Oh, that's wonderful. It's important that we have some levity to these conversations. We've got people that have a great sense of humor. That said, Hayden, let's move forward with a roll call, please.
All right, Chair Carter.
Present.
Here, Commissioner Smith.
Are you doing roll call, or is this on the minutes or on the?
This is just a roll call.
Just a roll call.
Here.
Yes.
Here.
And Commissioner Woodson is here.
Should have done that earlier. Thanks, Hayden.
Commissioner Carter, do you have the script? I sent it to your email on Friday.
I do not.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
let me forward that to you again.
Okay. I was kind of looking for that, but I think I've been through this process a couple of times, so I'll fake it. But yes, if you could.
Yes, sir. I'll
Stick with for the meeting next month. Okay.
That again right now.
Okay. Tess.
Sure. Ashley, if you want to go through the statement of necessity, and then I will go into my update.
Okay.
Absolutely. This is Ashley Thomas, General Counsel. This committee meeting includes an option for the public's participation via a link available on the Commission's website. TCA 8-44-108 permits a governing body to allow participation by electronic means of communication where a physical quorum is not possible. As committee business requires a decision prior to the regularly scheduled October meeting, the necessity of electronic participation is for the committee's deliberation and action on items set forth in the September 30th, 2024 agenda. All votes of the committee shall be by roll call. This meeting is being recorded, and a statement of necessity shall be filed with the Secretary of State after its conclusion.
Any questions from legal counsel or for legal counsel? There being none, Tess, can we now turn the virtual mic over to you?
Yes, thank you, Chair Carter.
Okay.
I have a brief operational update for the Business Operations Committee. First, from a staffing perspective, we are fully staffed. We have had no staffing changes since our last quarterly meeting. And then my second big update is wanted to review both upcoming commission meetings as well as special called meetings that we're going to have. So we have no remaining quarterly meetings in 2024 beyond our October meeting, October 17th and 18th. We will be having a special called virtual meeting on December the 2nd. We are anticipating receiving amendment petitions from 3 operators who are petitioning to amend their charter agreement. In accordance with commission rules, authorizers have 60 days to take action on those petitions. So we did give operators the option either to move forward with a December 2nd vote on those petitions, or if from a timeline perspective, it worked better to hold them till January 2025, we could do that as well. We did hear from at least one operator that they would like to move forward with the 60-day time frame. And so after our meetings this week, Drejan will be polling commissioners to identify a time that we can have that special called virtual meeting on the 2nd. I anticipate that will not take more than 90 minutes, if that much. Finally, we have settled on meeting dates for 2025, the calendar year. At the last Business Operations Committee meeting, we established our first, second, and third quarter meetings, but we were re-polling for the fourth quarter meeting. And we will be having that meeting October 16th and 17th of 2025. Drejan has sent calendar invitations to hold those dates. And that, as typical, will be when we hear our New Start appeal process. And with that, that concludes my operational update. I will turn it back over to Chair Carter for any questions.
Are there any questions from the commissioners to our executive director? Can anybody, I'm having a hard time reading that. Help me out, folks. What's it? It looks like blame.
Commissioner Carter, he blames me. I don't want any questions. I
Okay.
think he should blame Tess if he doesn't have any questions for her operational updates, but I'm happy to bear the brunt of the blame as well.
I thought I saw blame. I could not make Eddie, we're going to work on your printing a little bit, okay? But I thought I saw blame, but okay, we'll let that go. I couldn't make out the rest of it. But besides Eddie's comments, his written comments, is there any other comments or questions for our executive director in terms of her report? There being none, we're going to move forward. And now, Melanie, it is your turn to now step up to the plate and make us proud.
Thank
Provide
you.
us with a budget update.
Thank you, Chair Carter. So first, just big picture, I want to highlight, we're having this meeting a little bit earlier than we normally would in the year based on the volume of appeals. So I will update you on what we know to date, as well as the timeline of some things that will be happening over the next couple of weeks. So first, in terms of the budget to actuals that were provided, those were reflected our current spending through the end of August, which was what had closed at that point. I think there are 2 big things that I want to highlight for the committee. One is that we have seen that our K-12 enrollment is about 1.5% to 2% under what was budgeted. So we are keeping an eye on that in terms of our revenue projections. We will know much more in the next week or 2 once we get the budgeted revenue numbers for the geographic LEAs. So we have not changed much in the way of those projections at this point, but we will have more information about what Davidson County, Shelby County, and Rutherford County's initial revenue estimates are. We will be trued up both with those counties for ADM as well as for their budgeted revenue amounts. And I'll be sending an update to the committee once we have all of that information in terms of where our revenue, where our updated revenue estimates are landing. The state did also recently release paper performance awards. Once again, the state has actually provided more paper performance awards than in a typical year, which is great for our staff. It does mean once we get final bonus amounts, we will be updating our staffing projections for salaries and benefits. Those will be reflected on our books also in the next couple of weeks after this most recent pay period closes. And we will provide an update to the committee on that as well at our January meeting. As a reminder, those Team Act updates are funded through a separate appropriation. So there is sort of an offsetting revenue that we will receive based on those adjustments. But we do keep an eye on them to make sure from a sustainability perspective, we are incorporating those long term. I do want to highlight that we've said this the past couple of meetings. We do anticipate that Davidson County's final revenue numbers from FY24 will come in under what was initially budgeted, and that there will very possibly be money owed back to Davidson County from our schools. So we have continued conversations with them. Those final expenditure reports are due tomorrow for all districts across the state. So that should mean that we will have a firm calculation on those true-up amounts within the next week or so. The department will calculate those. They will send us exactly how much money is owed between the districts, both for us in Davidson County and for us in Shelby County. We will also provide the committee an update on where that landed as part of our additional updates in a couple of weeks about revenue projections. So our schools are aware of this. This has been talked about for several months now, but I do think there is a pretty strong likelihood that there will be some money owed back from our Davidson County charter schools back to Metro Nashville Public Schools. Are there any questions about that before I move on? Yes.
Melanie, I've actually got questions on both of those. Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Sure, please.
Thank you. So first, I would love to talk about both on the MMPS resources, but also on the enrollment. You mentioned that, don't know yet, but 1.5% to 2% under enrollment. Are there geographies that are more, like what are the geographies that are driving the lower enrollment for us? And then maybe related question on the MMPS kind of clawback resources. Is that because it's under enrolled? What's the crux of the amount differentiation and what our schools will have to kind of go back with, or what we'll have to go back with?
Yes. So first question, the primary decrease in enrollment is actually from Rutherford County. Rutherford Collegiate Prep is enrolled under what was initially projected by them. Even sort of we take their projections and I add a conservative estimate of that, but they were enrolled a little bit farther below even those estimates. I know there will be much more in the way of updates in the School Performance and Accountability Committee meeting, but that's primarily where we're seeing the biggest enrollment decrease under what was projected. We do see some individual schools that are maybe very slightly under enrolled kind of across the board, but not anything that is very material in terms of what we would have budgeted for them based on their projected enrollment. So that's our primary driver of that decrease. The other piece in terms of Metro Nashville's revenue collections, my understanding is that this is primarily driven by their local sales tax revenue coming in under expectations. That is something that we had a meeting with FNA last week. They said they have seen that statewide, that sales tax collections are down. So my understanding is that the primary gap in revenue is that sales tax collections were lower than what was anticipated and then what was budgeted.
Thank you.
Melanie, to that point, because I've got two different budget spreadsheets that I'm looking at. One that's current that I just received, but then one that, in fact, I think I was given some time ago. And of our 17 schools, the one number that, in fact, I show is 6,901, 6,901. And then this one has 7,174. So, roughly 100 and, I don't know, 80 something difference in terms of, again, student enrollment for K through 12. So again, I don't at the end of the day, truly Rutherford materially is 3/4 of that number, or just
Uh,
what?
Approximately, yes. And
Okay.
if you want more detail, I'm happy to pull exactly when I did these projections last year, what I
Right.
had as the budgeted enrollment number for each school. Again, I typically budget less for each school than even what their budgeted projections are, just because we try to be conservative. And so
Right.
I'm happy to crosswalk exactly what the differences are if that would be helpful. But yes, I mean, Rutherford Collegiate Prep, their proposed budgeted enrollment was about 765.
Mhm.
As of yesterday, I believe they were at about 460 students. So that is driving most of the decrease.
And you've answered the question, so I'm good. Any other questions?
Chair Carter, I got a question from Eddie that I would like Melanie to articulate. His question,
Okay.
Melanie, was around whether the repayment to Metro Nashville, if it comes in, that our schools owe money back, or we as the commission owe money back. Will that impact any of our reversion target, or can you talk about how that works from an authorizer fee perspective?
That's a great question. So that should not, as a summary, that should not impact our authorizer fee collection because that amount is fundamentally going to come back from the schools back to MNPS. So what I will say is that the schools are ultimately responsible for making sure that MNPS is made whole. We will facilitate that to the extent that we need to, but it should not materially impact anything about our reversion for this year, our reversion target, or anything like that. In terms of the authorizer fee portion of that, we actually held a little bit of authorizer fee in reserve at the end of last year, knowing that this was a possibility. And so that should be able to absorb sort of the 3% piece from our end that we received without any impact on our books for this school year. So that's the short answer. Happy to talk in greater detail about the mechanics, but the short answer is no, it should not.
Thanks, Melanie. Other questions to our Director of Operations and Finance? There being none, Melanie, thank you so very much. Okay.
I do want to give Commissioner Carter just a quick update also on some of our FY25 grants status, as well as our FY26 budget request that we just sent to Finance and Administration in the past couple of weeks.
Okay.
So first, just as a quick update on our grants, currently we are estimating passing through about $7 million in federal and state grants to our schools. This is a decrease from last year, primarily because ESSER funding has expired. So there's less in the way of relief funding going out to schools this year. So that has decreased substantially the amount of grant pass-through that we've had. Almost all of our grants are fully underway. We have extended learning grants. Those are all out to schools. They are working on those grant objectives. Our voluntary pre-K programming grant is up and running. We have are in closing out as of essentially tomorrow the final little pieces of ESSER funding where there was some carryover, as well as school improvement grants. The one thing that is still and is always our biggest piece of the pie is the consolidated funding application grants. Those are our Title 1, 2, 3, and 4 grants, as well as our IDA funds. I know we spoke quite a bit at previous meetings about our Title I funding, how that works. I do want to flag that as of the time I was preparing these materials, we did not have some of the Medicaid certification data that was needed to true up our Title I designations for this year. We received that data on Friday and took a look at it. And I think my one big flag for the committee is that Rutherford Collegiate Prep was initially projecting to not be a Title I school based on their demographics. And while we haven't fully validated all the data yet, it's looking like they very possibly will actually qualify for Title I services. So I will be reaching out to the department to make sure that we understand what that looks like. That will sort of change some of the mechanics around that funding application, assuming that once all the data is validated, that holds true. But those adjustments will be happening over the next month around the consolidated funding application, and then we will be sort of finalizing the interim adjustments that will happen for those schools. So I know that Medicaid data in particular is something that has been of interest to the committee in the past. So we do have that as of Friday, and we've continued to incorporate those into our Title I funding streams. Last thing, I will just say that we already had to submit our FY26 budget request to Finance and Administration. We met with that team about our request last week. We included in that request a request for 2 positions. I think we are all very aware that there are quite a few schools up for consideration at our October meeting this year, and we're looking at our growth and think that 2 positions to support district functions was the right request. So if approved by the General Assembly, we will continue to assess that anticipated growth, make sure that those timelines still feel right. And preliminarily, we are planning that those positions can support academic initiatives, academic compliance work, as well as some parent engagement and helping to address community needs and any parent complaints that may arise. So we'll keep the committee updated on that as we have more conversations with Finance and Administration as we get closer to legislative session. But preliminarily, that was our ask to FNA and the General Assembly. With that, I'm happy to take any final questions.
Do we have titles for those 2 positions?
Not yet. I think the vision is probably that one of those positions will be similar to our reporting compliance specialist that currently lives on our team, but more for our school programs and supports team. That person really functions as kind of our Renaissance woman. Shout out to Pam Kimbrough, and I think something for the other side of our work around academic initiatives would be very helpful. But I think part of that is going to really depend on what we see our growth trajectory looking like over the next month, what we see in terms of renewal appeals, and then how we reevaluate some of our systems and processes this year. But I'll let Tess jump in if she has anything else to add.
No, I think what we shared at our meeting with Finance and Administration last week is that over the next month or 2, we are going to know a lot more of what our school year 25-26 portfolio looks like once we get through new start appeals. And then we know any schools that get approved by the commission, any schools that decide to stay with the commission, we will have a better sense of what that looks like. And so we have committed to both report back to Finance and Administration about where we are kind of settling out with regard to our portfolio for 25-26, and then have further conversations if necessary about what those kind of positions would do. I think similar to Melanie, we are seeing a real increase in the amount of requirements that districts have to do around compliance, coordinated school health, and summer camps, et cetera, that just as we grow, that increases in a workload that we need to have a dedicated person to support that work. Additionally, I think someone really focusing on our parent and community engagement in a way that when we hear from parents and community members, who's ensuring that those phone calls get responded to, the emails get responded to, that there are appropriate due diligence if we need to conduct any sort of follow-up or investigation, and that we are really keeping on top of the parent and community aspect of our district functions.
Thanks, Tess. Appreciate the feedback. Melanie, coming back to you. Anything else that you'd like to bring up? Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I don't believe
Earlier.
so.
Okay. Questions from any of the commissioners to Melanie or to Tess before we conclude? Closing discussion. Anything else that anybody would like to bring up?
Mr. Chair, just for the record, since it is a virtual meeting, can we take roll call votes on both the agenda approval and the minutes that we moved through earlier? Just want to make sure those votes were on the record.
Okay. You want to move forward and do that?
Well, one of the committee members will have to make a motion.
Okay.
Motion on the minutes. May I combine them? Hayden? May I combine the motion?
I
Or you
believe
want to do
that-
them separate.
I think, let's just do it separate since that's what we
No
typically do.
problem.
Okay.
Okay, motion
Jamie?
to approve the minutes, and I saw that there was a second, but I'm not sure Michael can see that, so.
I can see that. Yeah, thank you, Eddie. I can see that.
All right.
Go ahead, Hayden.
On the minutes, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Smith. Is a yes. Commissioner Woodson
Aye.
and Chair Carter.
Aye.
All right. And then on the agenda approval,
Motion to approve the agenda.
Commissioner Smith seconds. All right. Commissioner Smith is a yes. Commissioner Woodson
Aye.
is a yes. And Chair Carter.
Aye.
All right. Those are approved. Thank you, sir.
Hayden, you're so sticky. Gee, you're just, we've got the right person though, so thank you. All right. Anything else that needs to come before the committee, the commission today, the committee? I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Any other discussion that you would like to have, or any other topics you'd like to bring up? Can I ask for bringing this committee to a conclusion? Ask
Motion
for
to
closing?
adjourn.
A motion to adjourn. Eddie, you seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Can I
Aye.
call the
Roll,
Can I call the
excuse
roll?
me. Roll call. Forgive me. There you go again, Aiden. You got to check me. So there you go. Go ahead, Aiden.
Commissioner Smith is a yes. Commissioner Woodson,
Aye.
yes. And Chair Carter.
Aye.
All right. Motion is
There we go. All right. Hayden, you need to give you the script next time, okay? See, so you leave it up to my own demise. See what happens. We get off track.
I'll double check that I typed your email in correctly. But,
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you
That's
all.
fine. Okay. Well, thanks everybody.
Thank you
Appreciate
all.
it. Have a good afternoon. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.